Good morning, everyone. Our webinar is starting to fill up, but it is 10 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a unique experience here with us today. We're going to have two speakers. We have Mark Spencer Cook and we have Kevin Ames. We're going to go ahead and start our day off with Mark Spencer Cook, who is an international speaker as well. And Mark is going to launch off our day. We're going to turn the time right on over to him. So Mark, go ahead and take it away.
Okay. Hand me those controls and I'll share my screen. Good morning, everyone. I found out very soon in my business, as it started a couple years ago, there's a lot of Mark Cooks in the world. So if you want to find me, you'll need to find me at markspencercook.com or on LinkedIn, Mark Spencer Cook. I've spent 2 decades studying, investigating, and executing with teams after publishing books, 3 different areas in my career. These are the most important business development areas that exist. Better strategy for leaders, innovating work, either through coaching as a manager or as an individual, and then, of course, sales growth. And I ended up calling this set of improvements to business the Windfall series. And I just wanted to tell you a little bit about why I picked that name, because I think it's a very inspiring story for right now during pandemic. You know, windfall hasn't always been a word. Around 1400, it started to appear. And we all know it as an unexpected gain from a surprising source. Maybe an uncle leaves us a fortune or something like that. Or we get a bluebird client that shows up and does more business, and it can be unexpected. But originally, back in the 1400s, the king owned everything. And if you managed an orchard and you took lumber from the trees, you were killed. If you were in the orchard working and you picked an apple, things were bad. And the only exception to this rule was that if an unexpected, horrific storm came and blew everything down, then the people scurried out and gathered this fresh fruit and the fresh lumber and brought it into the huts. And that's where the word windfall came from. This seemingly terrible thing that caused great things to happen. And that's really what we're in the middle of experiencing right now, is that everything seems very difficult and isolated, and even we have death around us. And it's our responsibility to lead our teams and ourselves through a set of practices that will get us hope and results even now to help prospects and clients. So today we're going to talk a little bit about rethinking our strategy. We've had a strategy before all this happened, and now what do we do? And I've had to do it myself in this business. You can imagine selling to groups that gather is not exactly the perfect place to be in the economy right now. But I've just finished the 2 best weeks of my career, and so these things work. I've taken my own medicine, and I want to share some of them with you. For example, when you're thinking about what you do, you always start back in strategy in the purpose. You recall and get centered on what your business is delivering to others. And some people call this your why. There's been several experts that call this your why. But there are literally an infinite number of whys possible. If you sell paper clips, making paper clips could be a why. I'm not sure it's the deepest, most profound thing you could do for humanity, even in that business. So we're going to explore 3 different levels. For example, we see paper clips, we deliver paper clips, so we might just think we're in the paperclip business. We might even build homes and think we're in the beautiful home business. Or we might be delivering pizza and think we're in the pizza business, delivering nutrition, if you can call it that. And yet there's a level deeper than what we see. And the level deeper is what happens in the minds of human beings. These are feelings and thoughts that have happened for centuries and centuries and centuries that still happen actively every day today. And some of these invisible thoughts, I ran into a client and we had a discussion in one of our sessions about the shift in the purpose of their work. They used to just build beautiful homes priced right for baby boomers getting ready to retire and then going all the way through retirement. And because of the unrest that's happened, they see those as sanctuaries now. And they're devising and thinking and planning ahead to when they can deliver not gates that can be climbed over or alarm systems that are too late to warn, but built right into the home security devices and things that you can't see that protect the inhabitants of the home. This takes a tremendous amount of imagination. But security and that sanctuary feeling has entered their purpose, and it wasn't as much there before. It's become more accentuated. If you're Domino's, you may not know this, but after dozens of interviews, I discovered that Domino's doesn't see their purpose as delivering food. They don't deliver it as primarily as taste. They bring a variety of food together to bring friends and family and gather them together. Well, not a lot of people are gathering right now. So you can imagine those executives and those leaders are rethinking a little different spin on the purpose of what they do. And so all of us have to do that. All of us have to go deeper into what are the 12 cardinal purposes that we get up every day as human beings and what we seek. And I have a new passion for even the extended version of this, which is a cause. I heard from very early on in my marketing career that you should always turn your business into a cause that unites and progresses humanity. And to be honest, I never really felt strongly about it until recently, in the last year or so. And when you find something that is in the way of your prospects, like we've found this last couple of years, when you find something's in the way of your prospects getting what you're trying to do for them and getting it, even having it available to them in this day and age, there's a blockade, there's a malevolence, there's an evil even that is in the way of them getting what they want. And when you discover that there are things, obstacles in the way of people getting what they need, and that you provide, it brings a broader and more intense feeling about this. And this exploration of these three different levels of purpose, I did a meta study on studies and experimental studies where people were hooked up to brain scanners, fMRI machines, and skin temperature monitors, and heart rate monitors, and things like that to measure the reaction of a human being to certain things around them, pictures they were presented with, words they were presented with, situations and narratives they were presented with. And no matter what you call these deeper purposes that we all seek, you can line the variables that scored very positively, the most positively, you can line them up in a spreadsheet, which I literally did, and you can see that there are about 12 that show up in most studies ever done. And these 12 things, these are hard to read. I don't expect you to go through them. I just wanted to present them and make them available to you. If you go to markspencercook.com/12, you can download this so you can go through the exercise I'm about to explain. And you can even get this and download it and have it for yourself. It has the instructions on it, and basically what you can do is you can go in reverse order and you can say, well, I know we don't want to do that, I know we don't want to do that, I know we don't want to give them that. And by the time you're finished, you're finding 2 or 3 things in this new day and age that might be more relevant than they were before pandemic started. And so it's a great exercise to find your purpose. And when you find what you're doing, what you're delivering, and the fact that what the home that you build is not delivering the same thing it needed to before, and it's centered on something that humans absolutely pursue every single day in really in big droves, you find your big why, not just any why. And so you've essentially centered your strategy on a path that's sure, that's articulated, and you know it won't fail because it hasn't failed for several centuries and even 500,000 years potentially. And so you can center your business on something that's better and even more exciting than you had before pandemic. And so that's what the path is of strategy, is finding the different iterations now and in the future of that purpose. And it's not a narrow, specific thing. It might be today, but going into the future, 5 years out to your vision, it's a little broad path. It gives people room to operate and help you. It gives you room to lead the project, the work, and the people. They can actually help lead and make decisions in how this is accomplished and how we pursue these different milestones of strategy. And so I'm going to just go through an example that illustrates the 4 milestones along this path once we decide what we're about really. It starts with a story about Brad Parkinson, and he's a rocket scientist. He's now just recently retired, and I was always envious as I met with Brad about what his business card might say. If it were me, I would have rocket scientist on my business card. But he was called by the government one day, the Air Force specifically, and they said, "We've had this navigation project. We're trying to navigate aircraft much, much better than before. We really need to. Can you help us?" The previous project has been run by scientists. They produce terrific science. They've even simulated it. We can't get it to actually happen. We need a leader like you. Could you come propose a solution to get this back on track? And so he did. And he went, in the first meeting, he said, "Now I know that I'm here to discuss how to navigate aircraft, but I've reached out to the experts in this field. And I've reached out to teammates in my former teams and really thoroughly investigated this opportunity. And I think there's a bigger, better vision than you're seeing. I see a day when we can benefit all citizens, not just the Air Force. The people that are actually paying for this project can have a handheld device where they could actually find the people and places that matter most to them." And so he devised a plan and presented it. And he talked about this free global utility, as he calls it, that would one day happen and come from this project. And then he said, "But I haven't lost sight, and none of us have, with the essential immediate mission that you're hiring me to accomplish. And I know that you haven't had the practical results that you're looking for. And we promise you within a couple few years that we will be able to land 5 aircraft sequentially in the same hole, in the same desert, and there will be no disputing that we have accomplished this task of creating a navigation system from space that's much better than you have currently." And so we will start that project immediately, and we will post the 2 targets in our workspace. And they did. They got the license to do the project, they got the funding, and they put up in the workspace. And in every conversation, Brad talked about 2 targets. The vision: is your decision leading us to a place where in at least 5 to 10 years, we could have a handheld in every citizen's hand that leads them to the people and places that matter most? And is your decision helping us, not just your team, but the whole set of teams, accomplish our shorter term mission, which is concrete, not vague, not just inspiring, but concrete? We will land 5 rockets in a hole in the desert sequentially. And is that decision contributing to that? And so these 2 targets were discussed and made clear constantly and printed and put in all the workspace. And then he brought together 5 teams from his past. Some of the previous Air Force teams departed. He relied on some of those experts that stayed. And he constructed 5 teams, not in an organization that he could manage and control and be boss of, but he constructed them around the objectives that would help them achieve the mission. And he put teams together on the various systems and things that would work best to accomplish those objectives. And they, in fact, didn't work in silo, but together, and did, in fact, accomplish their first objective of the space navigation team, which was to get a satellite into space. In fact, they ended up, after that first success, achieving 24 orbits of satellites that would be able to navigate. One of the most exciting projects that came out of this, it's just fairly recent actually, is something called Pathway in the Sky. And Pathway in the Sky is for aircraft when there is a mission that requires them to go low near the mountains or even through canyons. And suddenly nature doesn't cooperate and there's fog and storm. Those aircraft previously have been grounded. Lasers can't make it through canyons, etc. And GPS from space allows them to come from space, triangulate with the now 36 satellites, and paint a picture right on the heads-up display of a path. Now, what's so significant about this and what's so great in regard to leadership and strategy is that what Brad said is he said, Mark, you have to realize that if you walk into a cockpit in any plane, you look in there and you see all those dials and metrics and numbers and symbols. And it takes a great deal of training to understand what they even mean. And it takes even more experience to even be able to use them effectively. And even if you're trained and effective at that, you never can compete with the innate mechanics in our mind to see and pursue a clear path. When someone or something, in this case, Pathway in the Sky, paints a clear path for people to pursue, amazing things happen for the navigator. For example, the pilot now saves tons of fuel on all the missions that happen. The safety dramatically increases, and so many other benefits are achieved because the technology is utilizing the innate nature of a human being to pursue a path they can see. And of course, the analogy here is that when we as leaders think we've communicated but haven't, or send out an email that's a thick map, a simple piece of paper that describes a strategy in a form that looks nothing like a path, and we assume that everyone reads those sentences and understands what they mean, we create a fog where we understand because we've been spending days negotiating the exact words used. But the common worker in the cubes and offices haven't been there, and they don't feel and think the same thoughts that were represented in that work. And so it's up to us as leaders not to leave them in fog, but to describe visually these 4 milestones so they can literally see them in their mind's eye, in what their mind sees, and we can access the innate ability to pursue a path. Brad made 2 great points related to this. He said, really one of the most important efforts of a leader is to pave that clear path where we're going today, but where we're also going in a couple of years and where we're also going in 5 years, so we can follow it and everyone can pursue it. But just as important is we have to constantly adjust it, and we have to give a power to the people to make the decisions on how those milestones are achieved so that we're not directing everything. And finally, he said my most important job later in the project turned into clearing the path for everyone else, getting things out of the way that were made around the Air Force and things that would get in the way from teammates' perspectives, and clearing the path. And that way we get down to the individual level where individuals feel like they can drive forward today. And he pointed out that the natural timing of a goal is a day. We've made up a week, we've made up a year, the concept of a quarter, that we've mapped the annual calendar, but our physiology and our brain is wired for the day. And so each day, each person should be able to get up and know where they're going and know what's going to happen. And they should have a great deal, in fact, mostly autonomy in deciding what happens. The most fundamental pursuit outside of this example really is, if you refer to science, for a person to pursue a goal. That's what we wake up to do. And after working hard to pursue whatever that goal is, whether it's food or whatever it may be, afterwards, an innate need that we have is to rest and recover. But sometimes we switch these up and we feel comfortable, which is one of the synonyms of rest and recovery. And leaders and teams get comfortable, and then pandemic shows up and they become uncomfortable in a whole different way that has nothing to do with goal achievement or climbing a hill, and things get really foggy. And so as leaders, it's really important that we get down to this most fundamental need of providing for ourselves and for our people a goal that they can pursue, and not just this quarter, but today, and making sure that they even decide what it might be. And then reviewing it on the way into the week, just so that we every week make sure that we're clearing paths, encouraging progress, as Brad pointed out. And so we help them. Now, I show Zach Moss here because I had a great opportunity to interview Kyle Whittingham, the Dodd Coach of the Year, who happens to be our University of Utah coach. And he is an exceptional example of goal setting at the sub-team level for objectives and the individual level for goals. And he sets them every week by allowing the players to look at what the situation is in their, not just football life, but in their broader life, and set their own goals. And then he provides the coaches the infrastructure to help encourage those coming into the week and the performance coming out of the week on a weekly basis. And so they feel this innate joy of pursuing a goal, and gives them a tremendous freedom to be the driver of that. Now, in my work, there are two different areas of individuals that I try to help. Right now, people need to redefine their roles. They need a chance, they need to be given by their leaders tools to innovate what their role even means, to accomplish the things that need to happen for their sub-team, and to accomplish the mission, to accomplish the vision that you've now reinvigorated. And I provide personal coaching and webinars around 5 jobs of innovators on how they can get those things done as an individual worker within a cube or home by themselves. There are ways that they can innovate what they're doing and help your organization and themselves and find that joy of goal pursuit. The second way is there's a tremendous amount of business developers that are pretty much wondering what to do because no one's buying. And I've had personal experience in my business turning this business around from zero income as pandemic hit to my best 2 weeks of my career. And so I provide in a framework through the research that I've done with an Amazon bestseller and recent work, a framework for individuals who are in business development to sell more and go through some of the steps that are required. Now, I want to finish what this discussion on strategy is, really why this is important. Of course, I want to help your business. Of course, I want to help my business. But it's really about the people. I stood in front of Mimi Silbert and had a long conversation with Mimi Silbert, the founder of Delancey Street, and also 3 of her top leaders in her organization. Now, this is a remarkable thing. Sounds ordinary, but the 3 leaders were a multi-convicted bank robber with violence in each robbery that put him in prison, a prostitute, and a multi-offense convicted drug dealer. And those were some of her best leaders because her organization originally went to the state of California and said, your penal system is not working. Give me a subset. Let me prove the science behind human improvement, and let us build 2 businesses, restaurants and moving companies, and give these people a path of progression, of success, and most importantly, the camaraderie of family and a system to achieve within that family to pursue. And we will turn their lives around. And she has. It's a tremendous story. And so as I stood and I talked to these people that were leading restaurants and parts of moving companies and talked about their progression, it became obvious that one of the most important things a leader like Mimi or you can do is to let work itself be a healing medicine, not something that brings despair and low morale. And it doesn't matter if it's a pandemic or if we're all back together again. People can be given a path and a goal to pursue to improve whatever situation that we find ourselves in. They can do it over Zoom like we're doing it right now. They can do it over phone, and they can do it 25 yards apart. And the worst thing that we could do is say we're not going to do it, or we're going to stick with the same plan that doesn't contemplate different goals, different objectives, different missions, and different vision. And so these are the 4 milestones of strategy. Now, you might wonder where the values are. Values is always part of strategy. And human resource leaders love to start there because values are typically used as rules for behavior within our halls. And those values are not what the great performing companies and teams see as values. What they see as values is first assuming that we've hired the people that share something in common with the people that we serve, enough because they're human. And the people that we serve, those prospects we're trying to invite into our family to help, and those clients we're inviting to grow with us, they recognize that their people share values already with them. And so to rely on customer values and prospect values and really define values as the most essential values that we started out this conversation with, that human beings have always had and always will have, are the deep-rooted big whys. They are the values of purpose. They are the primary, tertiary, and secondary purposes that we serve prospects. And so if we can get new strategies put together, and if we can give our individuals and teams tools to innovate, we can, in fact, create a windfall from this unexpected storm that we're all facing. I'm grateful to Kevin. Thank you. I want to just say to Kevin, I've been with him in many teams, and he changes teams. And I would absolutely reach out to Kevin and get him to help you change teams in his way. And I'd like to turn the time now over to Kevin to do so.
Thank you, Mark. We appreciate you joining us on this session. We're in our 10th year of working together, Mark and I, and it's been an absolute pleasure. He has aged tremendously over that time. I haven't at all, and it's hard to explain, but it's great to have him on. I really appreciate it. Mark is the source of a tremendous amount of research that was done through the organization at OC Tanner, world leader in the appreciation space, and the writing of a book called Great Work and other things, sales book and some other stuff. And so it's a pleasure for us to have Mark on and share his, and it's really just an introduction around the concept of strategy and innovation and what a difference that can be made inside of an organization if you pay attention to these principles. As most of you know that join us on this series, our focus at the Ames Leadership Institute is about culture and primarily about leadership, because leadership is the thing that's going to ignite culture through the people that we have inside of the organization. And we get excited about it. And Mark's teaching about purpose is critical to this. Patanjali, author of the Yoga Sutras, thousands of years ago said, when you're inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary project, your thoughts break their bonds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents come alive. And you discover yourself to be greater by far than you ever dreamt yourself to be. It's interesting, isn't it, that the inspiration around a purpose or a cause can ignite all of that inside of us. And we need that to be true with our leaders. They need to be on purpose. They need to be crafting their life and leadership by design and inspiring other people and influencing other people. And that's the power of leadership, is to influence and inspire others to achieve great things, to do great things. And I can tell you that the work that Mark does goes a long ways to helping organizations understand how to activate that as we go forward. I want to spend the next 30 minutes with you just going back over some of the key leadership principles that we teach and the things that we think make a difference inside of the organization and take us really where we want to go. And this quote by Dwight D. Eisenhower, he said, leadership is the art of getting people to do what you want to do because they want to do it. They call those teams. This is a group of people with shared values and a common direction. That is what leadership is about. It's the idea that we have come together and decided we're going to make this navigation system work. We're going to make this prison reform program work through people. We're going to focus on getting people to do what we want to do because they want to do it. We're going to bring them into this place where we've connected around this key purpose. We've articulated it to them in a way that's causing them to choose our professional purpose as their professional purpose. And when they do that, now their work has meaning. Now it's exciting to them to join us and do the things that we want to do as part of this process. So what is the leader going to do? The leader's first responsibility is to get the right people. Jim Collins said, let's get the right people in the right seats on the bus. The bus is the organization, and it's going to take us someplace. And he said the first thing that we want to do is get the right people. Well, what I have found in organizations is that most of the time we have the right people. It's a little bit too late to go out and get new people on the bus. But for the most part, we find that the right people are there. Not always in the right seat necessarily. That can be changed. But the responsibility of the leader is to get the right people into the right places. And if we can do that, and if we can recognize as a leader that I probably already have the right people, then I can start to do the other work that's necessary to create success. The thing I have to do next is place those people in a position to succeed. I'm not sure there's anything more important that I will do as a leader than place them in a position to succeed. I don't know if a lot of leaders or a lot of organizations are very good at this. We don't find it very often where they're consciously taking a look at each individual that they have, trying to understand what the seeds of potential are inside of that particular individual, and then placing them in the right position for them to succeed, planting them in the right soil, providing the right amount of nutrition, sunlight, and water. And each seed is different and requires different things. So how good are we at analyzing our people, knowing our people, the people on our immediate team, placing them in a position to succeed? Job one, by the way, is placing yourself in a position to succeed, making sure that you have the resources that you need, that you have the time and the training that you need, everything necessary to be successful. So as a leader, make sure that you are the right person, make sure that you are placing yourself in a position to succeed, get the right people, place them in a position to succeed, then provide for yourself and then for your people all the conditions necessary for their growth. If we're not providing conditions for growth, there will not be growth. If we provide the conditions for growth, there can only be growth. So if you really want people to grow and flourish and produce, you're going to have to provide all the conditions necessary for that growth. It isn't entirely their responsibility. We have some responsibility as a leader to make that happen. If you want that strategy to leap off the page and into real life, you're going to have to inspire some people to choose to engage with the mission, vision, and values, the purpose of your organization. You're going to have to influence people to engage in the production of great work on behalf of that purpose of your organization. And if they do that, we will succeed. If they choose not to do that, we probably won't succeed and we'll just fight issues and problems all the time. And we see that in 80% of the companies we work with because we haven't got our people aligned. They haven't chosen to join us along this path. I love what Jack Welch said, former CEO of GE. When you were made a leader, you weren't given a crown. You were given the responsibility to bring out the best in us. Now examine them. A lot of leaders think they were given tremendous power and responsibility, and now people have to follow them, and they're important, and they have all the perks and the benefits. That's not the case. You were called to serve people. And I think most people intellectually know that. I'm not sure that they emotionally understand it. But we were not given a power position. We were given a servant position. And the responsibility is to bring out the best in others. So the question becomes then, am I actually capable of that? What would I do to bring out the best in the 10 people that are on my team? How would I go get each individual and get the very best out of them? Charles Schwab said the way to get the very best that a person has to offer is through appreciation and encouragement. So we've got some of the social skills associated with emotional intelligence in play right there. where I'm going to value and appreciate and care about my people. And I'm going to provide encouragement on an ongoing basis for them to do what they need to do. But they've got to have clarity. They've got to have a connection to purpose. They've got to have meaning. They've got to have the opportunity to use their skills in their job every day in order to feel like they're doing something that matters to them. Are you capable as a leader of bringing out the best in others? Do you, as an organization, do you have a system, a program in place that crafts leaders that can actually accomplish these things? If not, we have some help for you, and others can help you as well, but get some help in order to get that program in place. Because if we don't have a passion for excellence and a program that will produce excellence and repeat the production of excellence and repeat the production of people who want to be excellent all the time, we're just not going to succeed. So we're going to have that in place. All of this is going to require us to use that concept of emotional intelligence. Our emotional intelligence quotient is the most important thing that we activate. IQ, your intelligence quotient, matters. It tells you a little bit about what you were born with and what your capabilities are, but study after study has proven that that's not the secret sauce. It's more about effort, and it's more about emotional intelligence and the components of emotional intelligence that's making the difference. And the first phase of that is self-awareness. How aware am I as a leader of what my influence is? I want to have an influence. I want to be influential. But more often than not, the influence I'm having is not the one that I would choose. It's something else. And I'm not conscious necessarily completely of what that influence is. I'm not connecting people to purpose as well as I think I should be. I'm not inspiring or influencing them to use the best of their abilities. Oftentimes, I'm in the way. My idiosyncrasies, my behaviors, my communication isn't as effective as it should be. So I have to be aware, am I the right kind of example? Am I living in a way that conveys to them what they should be doing and the job they should be doing? Do I communicate in highly effective ways? Do I seek first to understand, then to be understood? Do I communicate well enough that they get the message and can do something about it? Am I fully self-aware? Am I conducting 360 reviews of myself all the time, getting feedback from people? Do I have a mastermind group that I work with that gives me honest and constructive feedback so that I'm aware of what I am? Am I aware of my skill sets and what I do well and how to practice those and improve on those? Am I aware of my weaknesses and how to go about strengthening them and improving them and making changes? Self-awareness is a critical aspect of this. We have to be self-regulated as part of that. I've got to be self-mastered. I've got to be in charge of myself. I set up my schedule. I'm obedient to my schedule. I keep it regulated to the extent that I can within reason to be highly effective, because the more I can do that, the better off I am. The better I can master a day inside of the creation of a functional week, the better off I'm going to be producing results for myself, my people, my organization. So I'm going to have to be self-regulated. As we do work with individual personal coaching, as we consult with your organizations, we really go to work on the self-awareness aspect and on how to master yourself and become a strong individual, proactive, and then a strong leader, synergistically working well with other people along the path. We have to be self-motivated. That means the source of our energy has to come from within, intrinsic. Intrinsic means internal, doesn't it? It means it has to come from the inside out. I can't rely on other things. I can do a lot of things to bring value to that. I can study and read and have affirmations and get feedback, but I'm responsible ultimately for my own motivation and for the success I'm going to have. And so I've got to find that the source of my energy comes from the inside. And the sooner we can get to that, the sooner we have power to self-regulate, to self-master, the more capability and willingness we have to be self-aware. We've got to get rid of a lot of self-esteem issues and insecurities to be fully self-aware, and then to take these dynamic actions to be better at what we're doing as an individual and as a leader, to master ourselves, to be motivated to get where we want to go. Then there's a transition to others awareness. This is the second part of emotional intelligence. I'm aware of myself and what I should be doing and how to control that. But am I aware of others? And am I aware of their needs? Am I conscious of who they are? Am I conscious of how to communicate? I love listening to great coaches talk. Coach Whittingham, who Mark did a tremendous interview with, and that information I think is on his website for you to see. But great coaches, Coach Krzyzewski with Duke, John Wooden from UCLA, and others. Pat Summitt at Tennessee, the greatest women's coach, probably one of the greatest basketball coaches, period, of all time. they understood how to deal with their individuals. And they all talked about the same thing. Coach Summit at Tennessee and Krzyzewski talked about, I've got five kids on the floor. One of them I have to get after. I have to kind of yell at them and get after them a little bit. But the second one, I have to kind of love them. I got to be soft and gentle and talk in soft ways. And I've got 5 different styles that I have to deal with the kids on the floor to get each one of them to exercise their skill set optimally, for them to be optimal. I can't have one style and just drive that through. So I've got to be others aware. This involves empathy, understanding the position of another person. Literally walking a mile in their moccasins, the old Native American reference, right? You've got to understand what my position is and where I am. I go through this daily. I'm reminded by people around me daily that, you've got to seek to understand me better. You've got to, you understand what I'm saying, or you don't understand what I'm saying. We have those conversations all the time. And we have to work hard to have that empathy. Now, this is not sympathy. Sympathy says, I can see that you're down in that mud hole. I'm going to get right down in there with you. Yeah, life is miserable. Life's tough. I'm going to crawl down. We're going to wallow in that muck together. That's not what we're going to have empathy. I'm going to understand that. I'm going to do the best I can to help lift you out of it. I understand it. I'm not going to join you there, but I understand your position, and I'm going to do my best to help you come through with that. And that will require me then to have skills with other people skills, social skills. Am I able to listen effectively? Do I listen to learn instead of listening to respond? Am I seeking to understand? After I understand, I'm able to restate so that they understand that I understand, so that the person I'm communicating with understands that I get their position. I do have empathy for them, and I'm in the same space. Now I can seek to be understood. Now I can express myself. Then I can listen to their feedback on that to make sure that we both have understanding of each other. And from that position, almost unstoppable. People that do that are forming teams with shared values, common direction, and now we can get some things done. The emotional intelligence aspect of this is absolutely critical as you go forward as a leader. So we've got to be aware of that. And then there's just a simple flow that I remind people of all the time. And it's important that our leaders go through this process and understand it. The journey of leadership begins within. It's a decision that we have to make inside. Napoleon Hill spent 20 years researching the highest achievers in the world. He was commissioned by Andrew Carnegie back in the 20s and 30s to study Henry Ford and Thomas Edison and Graham Bell and all the people that invented everything that we take advantage of today. He studied them for 20 years. That's significant research. And he discovered 17 different characteristics and attributes that these high achievers had. I'd recommend that you go read Think and Grow Rich to understand what those 17 are and try to acquire them. But he found the first one, and the center point of all of it was this idea that the starting point of all achievement is desire. You've got to want to. I've got to make a decision to be a leader. I've got to make a transition from being a great individual performer, solo achiever, to somebody that achieves collectively through other people. Mark Cook did a significant amount of research on leadership and identified that we are supposed to achieve things collectively through others and instill in them collective sense of passion for the work they're going to do. They're connected by this collective sense of purpose around what that project is. They are empowered collectively to make decisions and have autonomy in their place. And when we do this well, we get the collective gene that flows from a group synergistically. Synergy is just a high level of collaboration, isn't it? And we get the best out of everybody. We get the best ideas we can. But it all begins with desire. I've got to want to in order to get that done. Excuse me 1 second. And we got a phone call right in the middle of a webinar. So this desire aspect is something that is self-cultivated. And I have to write it down. You have to write it down. You have to write things down in order to transfer them from thoughts down through the body and back deep into the mind. Write down what the purpose is and write down your desire. What is it that I want to achieve as a leader? And then write a paragraph about why I want to achieve it as a leader. I've got to have an understanding of those things. These are the requirements. I'm going to make a transition into dynamic leadership. I've got to have these things in place. Desire is number one. I make that decision. Then I add to that knowledge, deep knowledge, both general and specific knowledge about leadership, about people, about myself. I gain knowledge, specific knowledge about what the role is, what our responsibility are, what are the skills we need, specific knowledge, but also general knowledge. One, so that I'm an interesting conversation. But I've got to kind of have a sense of what's going on in the market, in the world, so that I can speak intelligently about that. But in addition to knowledge, I have to add to that understanding. The world is full of people that have a lot of knowledge, no understanding. The highways are completely packed with that very person. They have knowledge about driving, but not much understanding. The idea of understanding is deeper. I have to take the knowledge and understand it. I have to understand people. I have to understand the project. I have to understand the outcomes and how do we get to the outcomes? What are the natural motivators that people have? How are people influenced? I've got to have a deep sense of understanding. That requires time and thought and writing down a lot of information and examining it and rethinking myself and recrafting myself on a weekly basis so that I get better and better and better at developing the skills I need to actualize all of these things that I want. I've got to develop skill around this knowledge and this understanding. Now I've got to have skills in order to execute these things. To understand what I want, I've got to have the skill set to do it. Now, once I have the skills, you almost think that you're done at that stage, but we're not. We've got to go to another phase. We have to be able to execute. Professional sports teams are full of people who have a lot of desire to play. They've got the knowledge. They understand how soccer works. They understand it all. They've been playing forever. They have a great understanding and knowledge of the game. They've developed skill set. They can do a million things with a ball on a field standing there by themselves. But at the end of a game, when there's no score and the title is on the line, some can execute and some can't. And the majority can't. 80, 90, 95, 98% can't execute when it really matters. And that's the difference between ultimate championship level success and just falling short all the time. You have to be able to execute when it matters, when the lights are bright and the pressure's on. That skill set has to be able to work then. And sports reference to something called choking, where the chemistry in my body gets to me and I get too nervous and I want it too much and I don't execute well and I lose. I finish second. Second is close, but not good enough. I've got to be able to execute. You can't stop just at the development of skill. A lot of people have skill, but we have to execute. Finally, there's something else we've got to have in place, and that is personal accountability for all of this. I can't be held accountable by other people. You really can't hold other people accountable. I can assign responsibility and have them report on the responsibility, but I really can't hold them accountable. That's a personal experience. That's also intrinsic. They have to be accountable to themselves in order for them to be proactive people. Proactive means I take personal responsibility for the outcome, for my outcome and for the organization's outcome. I take personal responsibility for it, and I'm going to be accountable for it. I'm going to make sure that it happens. Personal accountability doesn't mean, well, yeah, I just admit that it didn't take place. I think personal accountability is saying I'm going to make sure it takes place. I'm not going to accept failure. I'm going to do this until we succeed. This is what ties the commitment to the result. The whole purpose of leadership and work and business is to produce a result. In Mark's great work on great work, he identified that this concept of great work means doing the kind of work that makes a difference people love. Think about it. I'm actually going to do great work so that when I deliver it to my customer, that could be a coworker or that can be the customer out the door. But when I deliver that work, it's literally making a difference that they love when they receive it. This is making sure it happens. This is making sure that we're executing around this to get it done. So this is important stuff. We have to develop that as we work with our people through our personal coaching programs. And a lot of people or companies will actually put their leaders through these personal coaching programs because it's the best way for us to get to them and instill in them these skill sets that they need and the understanding they need to get there, something you can think about. Second, the leadership influences the employee experience. So I've made the decision, I have a desire, I really want to do it. Now I have to understand that what I'm influencing is the experience that the employee's having. And I think we're all pretty clear now that it is the employee experience that's determining the outcomes. And we have a lot of interesting experience. Tanner's research suggests that employees are impacted most by large experiences, by significant, pleasant and painful experiences. They last longer. A major bad day has an influence on an employee for about 2 weeks. A major good day, a real big success where they're celebrated, appreciated, lasts about 4 weeks. Those are much better, obviously. The job of the leader is to make sure that we have as many of those good days as we can, as few of those bad days as we can, and to make sure that the neutral days are pretty good days, not just days that are blown off, but actually the neutral days themselves are quite good. but the big days are really big, that we celebrate those people, that we make sure that we get them called out and value them. The experience that the employee has individually is what determines the outcome. Here's what we know. Two people sitting right next to each other on the same team in the same space with the same boss have two completely different feelings about their job. One is excited about it. They're fully engaged. They're going to stay there for a while. The other one's got one eye out the window. They hate their boss. They hate their job. They're looking for another job. So that means that the culture of the organization isn't making a difference. It means the new furniture that they've just bought for the place isn't making a difference. The free Coke in the cafeteria is not making a difference. Something about their daily experience is making a difference. And more often than not, you're going to find that has to do with the leader, the quality and the interest level they have in the work they're doing, the connection to purpose, the meaningfulness of their day, the use of their skills, etc. Those things are going to matter. You influence the everyday experience of the employee, and that's what causes them to make decisions about engagement. Engagement is not an organizational destination that we arrive at and survey for. It's a misunderstanding everywhere in the world. That is not what it is. Engagement is a decision made by individuals, one heart, one mind at a time. They make a decision after they come to work for you, whether they're going to engage with the mission, vision, values, the purpose of your organization or not. They decide whether they're going to engage in producing great work on behalf of that purpose and that organization or not. And it's their decision. Once they made the decision, we're not going to make that change along the way. Our friend Tammy Erickson over at the London Business School said it's about discretionary effort. We understand that. You can't force me to engage. You can't say I demand you, though there's a lot of people that attempt to do that. Even HR groups who say we're going to fill out this survey, make sure you fill it out right. That way we get to win something from a magazine. It's not how it works. If I'm going to do it, she says, I'm going to dig down deep inside myself, and that's accurate. I'm going to look inside and decide, do I want to engage here? Am I going to engage with this purpose? Am I going to engage in producing great work because I've adopted this professional purpose as my professional purpose, and I'm going to make a difference here? For a while, for whatever my life cycle is as an employee with this organization, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to bring myself every day with passion and purpose. I'm going to bring my skill set to bear. And I'm going to do this for as long as I'm here. Later, might change this role and go do something else. That's fine. But while I'm going to work here, I'm going to give it the best that I've got. I'm going to engage, and I'm going to make the decision to do that. With engaged people, it's those proactive, dynamic, and synergistic people that actually form cultures. Culture is just, or should be, a vibrant community of people who have three qualities. And the three qualities are interesting, and they're important to you as a leader, and they're important to your team. So you ask yourself the question, do I have these three qualities? Am I capable of causing other people to have these qualities? The first one is, do I love what I do? What you find in successful cultures that are engaged, have great dynamic people in there, is that they love what they do. They love the work that they're doing. That's a critical thing. Again, I'm using my skills. It's meaningful to me. I get great feedback about the work. I feel successful. I feel like I'm evolving as I go. And so I love what I do. And loving what you do is a decision you make. You don't show up at work and see how it goes and then decide whether you like it. You decide in advance to go in there and love that work. That's a mature decision. That's an adult decision. See, I don't wait for things to happen to me to decide if I'm going to be happy. I decide in advance to be. And then I go in and I love what I do. So as a leader, do you love what you do? If you don't, it's showing. If you do, it's showing. Make sure you do. Then, do you have the ability, the skill set, the knowledge, the understanding to cause other people to experience this? If not, we have to get it. Second, they love who they do it with. This is also a decision made in advance. I don't show up at work, see how my team treats me, see how my boss treats me, and then decide whether I like it or not, or whether I like them or not. I decide in advance to love who I do it with. I'm going to go in and like these people. I'm going to get to know them. I'm going to learn who they are, and I'm going to find the connection that I need in order to like these people, to love who I'm doing my work with. That's a decision you make as a mature adult. That's the whole concept of getting rid of these insecurities and these other things and stepping up and being in charge of yourself, self-regulated, self-motivated. I choose to love what I do today, and I choose to love the people I'm doing it with. Are you going to run into hard personalities? Absolutely. But what would be the fun of life if we didn't have those? That's going to be everywhere. But I can find my way around it. I can find a way to understand. I'm going to take the time to get to know that person until I solve that problem. As a leader, do I love who I do it with? Am I loving the people I'm doing this with? And do I have the ability to inspire others to have that? Finally, do we love who we do it for? Excuse me. We're doing it for a board or an owner, certainly. We're doing it for the executive leadership team. We're doing it for a leadership team in general. We're doing it for our boss. We're doing it for each other as a team. We're doing it for a customer out there. Am I conscious of every level and that I want to really love who I'm doing it for? I want to connect to all that. I want to see the benefits associated with my work making a difference for all of these people. If I can understand that and connect to it well, then it provides great meaning for me. As a leader, am I clear about who I'm doing it for and why I love that? Am I able to inspire other people to have that experience? And if we do this, then the culture itself will produce the success. Cultures ultimately will determine the success of your organization. It will either enable or inhibit the achievement of your goals. It's going to do one or the other. And that's because the people are going to choose to take action on it or not. Lou Gerstner's the former CEO at IBM. He says, I came to see in my time leadership there that culture isn't just one aspect of the game, it is the game. And that's the fact. It's about people. Ultimately, it's just about people and people coming together synergistically as a group to produce the outcomes that we want. And that's what leadership is about in its entirety. That's its whole purpose, is to bring people together in inspiring and influential ways to make a difference. If we do this well, our people get direction. They connect with true north, with where we're going, with our purpose, with our principles, our values, and they make decisions to do amazing things, to work together in these amazing teams that can win. If we don't do this well, we're going to have a completely different experience. And you're going to experience what I see oftentimes. If you've ever been to a 4 or 5 year old soccer game of a Saturday morning, this is what you see. And it's called bunch ball, isn't it? The kids just run around in a bunch, the ball's randomly bouncing off their shins. We have 2 small goals at either end of a very small pitch. Don't know why we put nets on them. We don't use those for anything. But if I conducted a standard happiness or engagement survey from HR about this particular group, if 100% was the best score available, I wouldn't get 100%. I'd get 1,000%. These kids couldn't be happier about being there. They're just not accomplishing a single thing associated with soccer. And that's kind of what we thought we were doing. And this is what we see with the companies we work with all over the world, is bunch ball. A bunch of people out on the field that really aren't connected to a purpose. They kind of understand why they're there, but they're not really skilled. They don't have a lot of depth of understanding about what flow is or how to separate and move and pass the ball with each other, work together, value what's going on, and score and produce a result. I just don't think this is what we're after. I think what we would rather see is World Cup, isn't it? It's called the beautiful game for a reason, because are spread out over a world-class pitch, executing around strategy and tactic to score goals, to win games, to take championships on purpose and by design. See, that's our prerogative. We can do it on purpose. We can craft the way to succeed. And when you get a certain kind of a team like the one you see here, they are virtually unbeatable because they can execute their skill set. They have knowledge, they understanding, they have a big desire. They are connected to purpose as a group. They collectively have got it. They're sharing the passion and the power and the purpose. The genius rises out of that group and the results are produced. And that's why we're here. That's what we're doing. The entire work that Mark Cook does through his organization, that I do through Ames Leadership, and that others do, is designed to help get you there. We want to help through consulting with your organizations or providing personal coaching for you or your leadership groups. We want to help. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to talk to you more about it. And of course, everybody that's on these webinars are in the same boat. They're doing the same things. They want to provide help. Pick somebody and do some work. When we need something that is in your line, we'll come and get you, because I've got to buy the things I need to get stuff done in my life from you as well. And we're trying to do the same things over here with leadership and strategy, with innovation and personal development. So let us know how we can help. We'd love to do that as we go forward. We're excited about these webinar series. We're going to have another one next Tuesday on resilience. I'll be doing that one on resilience next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. So sign up for that one if you get an opportunity. We'll put that out on LinkedIn here in the next couple of days. We appreciate you joining. Thanks again to Mark Cook for joining us today. He's again always a pleasure to have with us, and we are going to turn you loose. We appreciate you attending. Again, reach out, let us know if there's anything else we can do for you. Thanks much.
Thanks, Kevin and Amanda.